The reluctant alliance, the vast command center of the coalition battle station Resolute, hung in silence. 12 species represented on the War Council stared at the holographic battle map displaying their impending doom. After 8 years of brutal conflict, the Craxus Empire had pushed them to the brink of total defeat. First Admiral Velix, a tall Arcturian with silver-blue skin and 6 elongated fingers, gestured toward the pulsing red mass that represented the Craxus Armada. "The enemy fleet will reach the Deneb defensive line within 48 hours, she announced, her voice carrying the weariness of a commander who had seen too many defeats. "Our remaining forces are outnumbered 15-1. Once Deneb falls, they have a direct path to our core worlds." Council Representative Thoril, an avian Paxari with brilliantly colored plumage now dulled by stress, fluttered his wings in agitation. "Where are our reinforcements from the Outer Rim colonies?" "Destroyed," replied Velix flatly. "The Craxus hit the shipyards at Tau Ceti 3 days ago. Nothing survived." A ripple of despair moved through the council members. 8 years of war had depleted their resources, decimated their fleets, and cost billions of lives across dozens of worlds. The Craxus Empire, with their quantum-phased weapons and impenetrable shield technology, had systematically dismantled every defense the Coalition had constructed. "There is one option remaining," said General Mozkai, the reptilian head of Coalition Intelligence. His scaled skin shifted colors as all eyes turned toward him. "The humans," he said simply. A chorus of dismissive sounds echoed around the chamber. "The humans have refused involvement for 8 years, snapped Thoril. "While our worlds burn, they observe from their protected sector as if this were some academic exercise." Mozkai raised a clawed hand. "They've responded to our latest petition. They're sending an ambassador. She arrives within the hour." First Admiral Velix's luminous eyes narrowed. "After all this time? When we have nothing left to bargain with? What could they possibly offer now that would make a difference?" The answer arrived precisely 58 minutes later, when the doors to the command center slid open to admit a single human woman. She was unremarkable by human standards, average height, olive-skinned, with dark hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain gray uniform with no visible rank or insignia, except for a small blue Earth emblem on her collar. "Ambassador Elena Reyes, representing the United Earth government," she announced without preamble, her voice clear and confident in the suddenly silent chamber. First Admiral Velix stepped forward. "Ambassador, while we appreciate Earth's sudden interest in our plight, I must be blunt. We stand on the edge of total defeat. We have lost over 60% of our fleet, 32 worlds have fallen, and billions are dead or displaced. What could humanity possibly offer at this late hour?" The human's expression remained composed. "Victory." Within 3 hours of engagement, the claim was so outrageous that several council members laughed outright. Others simply stared in disbelief or anger. "You mock our suffering," hissed Representative Thoril, feathers bristling. "Your entire fleet consists of fewer than 400 vessels. The Craxus command fleet alone numbers over 6,000. "Quantity is irrelevant," replied Reyes calmly. "We've spent 8 years studying this conflict, analyzing every battle, every Craxus tactic, every failure and limited success of your forces." She approached the holographic display and waved her hand, interfacing with the system. The image shifted to display the Earth fleet, a small collection of vessels that appeared primitive compared to both Coalition and Craxus designs. "Your skepticism is understandable," she continued. "But Earth has developed solutions specifically tailored to counter Craxus technology. We needed time to perfect our approach and to be certain intervention was necessary." General Mozkai's scales shifted to a deep purple of suspicion. "If you possess such devastating capabilities, why wait until the Coalition is nearly destroyed?" The human's eyes met his directly. "Would you have trusted us 8 years ago? A newcomer species with unproven technology and unknown motives? Or would you have demanded to know the details of our methods, potentially compromising operational security?" Before Mozkai could respond, Reyes continued. "Humanity needed to be certain of 3 things. First, that the Craxus Empire was as expansionist and genocidal as intelligence suggested. Second, that diplomatic solutions were truly impossible. And third, she paused, that the coalition of free worlds was worth saving. This statement provoked outrage among several council members, but First Admiral Velix raised her hand for silence. "Explain that last point, Ambassador," she demanded quietly. "Power vacuums are dangerous," Reyes replied evenly. "Before committing to remove the Craxus from power, we needed to understand what would replace them. We've observed how the Coalition treats refugees, how you manage internal conflicts, how your member worlds govern themselves. We've analyzed your historical records, cultural development, and ethical frameworks." She looked around the chamber. Humanity has no interest in trading one tyranny for another. We needed to be certain the Coalition truly represents the values of freedom and cooperation it claims to uphold. A heavy silence fell over the council. It was General Mozkai who finally spoke. "And your verdict, Ambassador?" "Earth is prepared to intervene," she answered simply. First Admiral Velix studied the human carefully. "You understand our skepticism. Your civilization has been part of the galactic community for barely a century. Your technology is considered rudimentary by most standards. Yet you claim you can defeat an empire that has brought 12 advanced species to their knees." Ambassador Reyes nodded. "I understand completely. That's why I'm not asking for your full fleet to support us. Just 3 of your fastest corvettes to escort our command ship to the edge of the Deneb system." "3 ships?" Thoril scoffed. "That's all you require?" "That's all we need to position our response team," replied Reyes. "Once deployed, our technology will do the rest. But I must insist on 2 conditions." The council members exchanged glances. "Name them," said Velix. "First, your remaining fleet must stand down and move to a position at least 1 light hour from the Deneb front. Second, you must temporarily deactivate all quantum field sensors within the engagement zone." These requests triggered immediate suspicion. "You ask us to blind ourselves?" demanded the Selkari representative, speaking for the first time. "While you do what exactly?" "While we end the war," Reyes replied calmly. "The quantum field disruption we'll create could damage your sensor arrays. We're simply preventing equipment loss." "And if we refuse these conditions?" asked Velix. The human ambassador's expression remained neutral. "Then we wish you the best of luck with your final stand, and Earth will prepare its defenses for when the Craxus turn their attention to us." The directness of this answer created another silence. In the chamber, "May we have a moment to confer, Ambassador?" asked Velix finally. "Of course." As Reyes stepped outside, the council erupted in heated debate. Many questioned the human sanity. Others suspected deception or some hidden agenda. A few dared to hope. "What choice do we have?" General Mozkai said finally. "Our projections give us less than a week before complete collapse. If the humans want to sacrifice themselves in some desperate gambit, why stop them?" "Because they know something we don't," replied Velix thoughtfully. "They've been watching, analyzing, waiting. That's not the behavior of fools or madmen." After 30 minutes of intense discussion, they reached consensus. When Ambassador Reyes returned, First Admiral Velix delivered their answer. "We accept your conditions, Ambassador. 3 corvettes will escort your command vessel to Deneb. Our fleet will withdraw to the specified distance, and we will deactivate our quantum sensors for the duration of your operation." Reyes nodded. "Excellent. Please transmit the coordinates. For rendezvous. The UES Oppenheimer will be ready to depart in 6 hours." As she turned to leave, Velix asked one final question. "Ambassador, what if you fail?" The human paused at the doorway. "We won't." Aboard the Craxus Command Dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, Supreme War Commander Drekath viewed the approaching coalition defensive line with 6 pairs of compound eyes. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights as he manipulated the tactical display with his primary limbs. "Pathetic," he chittered to his second-in-command. "Their formation is already degrading. These lesser species have no stomach for true warfare." "Supreme Commander," interrupted his sensor officer, We're detecting new warp signatures approaching the conflict zone. Coalition reinforcements? Asked Drekath, mandibles clicking with amusement. No, Commander. The signature profiles match. Human vessels. This announcement caused a brief pause on the bridge. The humans had maintained strict neutrality throughout the conflict, claiming they needed more information before choosing sides. Their technology was considered primitive by Craxus standards, directed energy weapons and conventional drive, systems that had been obsolete to the Empire for generations. How many vessels? Drekath demanded. Just 4, Supreme Commander. 1 larger vessel approximately Dreadnought class by their standards, and 3 Coalition corvettes as escorts. Drekath's mandibles clattered with laughter. They send 4 ships against our armada? Perhaps they've come to negotiate the Coalition's surrender and secure favorable terms for Earth. The human vessel is transmitting on an open channel, Commander. Put it through, Drekath ordered. Let's hear what these primitives have to say before we obliterate them. The view screen activated, revealing a human male with close cropped gray hair and a simple black uniform adorned only with a small insignia on the collar. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Earthship Oppenheimer, the human stated calmly. To all Craxus forces, power down your weapon systems and prepare to receive boarding parties. Your war is over. Silence fell across the Craxus command bridge before Drekath and his officers erupted in clicking, chittering laughter. Human, Drekath replied when he had regained his composure. Your translation matrix must be malfunctioning. You face the full might of the Craxus Empire. Over 6,000 warships in this fleet alone. You have 30 minutes to comply, Admiral Chen continued as if Drekath hadn't spoken, after which we will be forced to demonstrate humanity's resolve. Drekath cut the transmission with a sharp gesture. Continue the advance. Destroy those human vessels if they interfere. I want the Coalition defensive line broken within the hour. As a B, the massive Craxus fleet moved forward. Tactical officers reported that the Coalition forces were inexplicably withdrawing, pulling back to a position well away from the defensive line. They abandoned their final defense to 4 ships? Drekath's second-in-command asked incredulously. Perhaps they finally accepted their inevitable defeat, Drekath responded. Target the human vessel first. Let's show these newcomers the price of their arrogance. Exactly 30 minutes later, Admiral Chen sighed as he gave the order. They've ignored our warning. Deploy the Nexus system. The 3-hour victory from the seemingly modest human vessel, thousands of microscopic drones swarmed out in a pattern, invisible to standard sensors. Each carried a payload that defied conventional physics, the culmination of decades of classified research conducted in secret Earth facilities. Project Nexus exploited a fundamental vulnerability in the quantum shield technology that had made the Craxus nearly invincible. Where the Coalition had spent years trying to overpower these shields with brute force, human scientists had discovered a way to create a cascading field collapse from within. On the bridge of the Oppenheimer, Science Director Dr. Aisha Rahman monitored the deployment. Drones have achieved optimal dispersal pattern, field generators at 100% capacity, initiating Nexus protocol in 3, 2, 1. A subtle pulse of energy, undetectable to Craxus sensors, rippled outward from the drones. For 17 seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the first Craxus warship simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris, just a brief flash of light as the quantum field protecting the vessel collapsed catastrophically inward, creating a momentary microsingularity that consumed the ship and its crew before winking out of existence. 3 more ships disappeared in the same manner, then 12, then 50. In the Coalition Command Center, First Admiral Velix and the War Council watched in stunned silence as Craxus signatures began vanishing from the tactical display by the hundreds. What are they doing? Whispered Representative. Thoral Ambassador Reyes, who had remained behind while the Oppenheimer deployed, observed calmly, ending the war. On the Craxus Command Dreadnought, chaos erupted as reports flooded in of ships mysteriously disappearing throughout the fleet. What's happening? Drekath demanded, his compound eyes swiveling frantically between displays showing massive fleet losses. Where are our ships? Unknown, Supreme Commander. His tactical officer chittered in panic. There's no debris, no energy. Signatures, they're just gone. The humans, Drakath hissed. Target that vessel with everything we have. But before the command could be executed, the quantum field surrounding the inevitable conquest began to fluctuate wildly. Warning signals blared across every console as the ship's power systems went haywire. Quantum field collapse imminent, screamed the engineering officer. We can't stabilize. The transmission from the flagship cut off abruptly as the vessel disappeared from existence. Throughout the massive Craxus formation, the effect cascaded exponentially. Ships vanished in waves, first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Those that attempted to flee found their quantum drives malfunctioning, leaving them trapped in normal space. Aboard the Oppenheimer, Admiral Chen watched the systematic destruction of what had been the most powerful military force in known space. Phase 1 complete, reported his tactical officer. Moving to secondary targets. The swarm of microscopic drones, now self-replicating using matter harvested from their targets, spread outward to engage the remainder of the Craxus fleet. Larger vessels lasted longer as their more complex shield systems required additional time to compromise, but the outcome was inevitable. In the Coalition Command Center, General Mozkai's scales had shifted to a pale yellow of shock. This is impossible, he whispered. They're not destroying the ships, they're erasing them from existence. Ambassador Reyes nodded. Quantum field inversion. The shields that made the Craxus invulnerable have become their greatest weakness. First Admiral Velix turned to the human with new understanding dawning in her luminous eyes. This is why you wanted our sensors deactivated. You didn't want us to analyze your technology. Correct, Reyes acknowledged. Some knowledge isn't ready to be shared, not yet. 2 hours and 17 minutes after the first Craxus vessel disappeared, Admiral Chen sent a transmission to the scattered remnants of what had once been the mightiest fleet in the galaxy, now reduced to less than 100 damaged vessels. This demonstration is complete. Your remaining forces throughout Craxus space will receive similar treatment if terms of unconditional surrender are not accepted. Within 12 hours, transmitting coordinates for your representatives to meet and discuss terms. As the message concluded, silence fell across both the Oppenheimer's bridge and the Coalition Command Center. 3 hours, murmured Representative Thorell in disbelief. 8 years of war, ended in 3 hours. First Admiral Velix approached Ambassador Reyes slowly. You could have done this at any time, she said, her voice a mixture of awe and accusation. You could have prevented billions of deaths. Why wait 8 years? We needed to be certain, Reyes replied evenly. Certain of what? Demanded Thorell. Certain we would be sufficiently desperate to accept any terms you dictate after our victory. No, said Reyes. Certain the Craxus would never negotiate in good faith. Certain diplomacy had been exhausted. Certain which side truly deserved to prevail. She met their gazes steadily. And certain you understood that while humanity may be patient, we are not to be trifled with. The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity hadn't been neutral. They had been judging, watching both sides, evaluating, determining who would make better neighbors in the galaxy. What happens now? Asked General Mozkai finally. Now, said Reyes, we rebuild. The Coalition will need to establish a transitional authority for former Craxus territories. Earth will provide humanitarian assistance and security guarantees, while governmental systems are established. And the technology you use today? Velix asked carefully. Will remain Earth's alone, Reyes stated firmly. But know this, we deployed only our most basic defensive system, one specifically designed to counter Craxus quantum shield technology. The message was clear. What they had witnessed was just the tip of the iceberg. The Galactic Council will convene in 1 standard month, Reyes continued. Earth will formally join the Coalition as a full member, with appropriate representation. We look forward to a productive partnership. As the human ambassador departed to coordinate with her superiors, the Coalition leadership remained in stunned silence. It was Representative Thorell who finally gave voice to what they were all thinking. We spent 8 years fighting the Craxus, only to discover we've been auditioning for humanity all along. First Admiral Velix gazed out at the stars, contemplating a galaxy fundamentally changed in just 3 hours. And now we know why they waited. They weren't observing a war. General, Moskai finished her thought. They were conducting an interview, 6 months later, on the newly established neutral ground station orbiting the former Craxus homeworld. Ambassador Reyes met with the provisional government representatives from both the Coalition and former Craxus territories. The reconstruction effort exceeds all projections, reported the Arcturian minister. With Earth's assistance, we've restored basic services to 87% of affected worlds. And the integration program? Reyes inquired. Proceeding well, answered the former Craxus administrator, his chitinous exoskeleton now adorned with the new Unity emblem. There is resistance in some sectors, but most of our people welcome the end of imperial rule. As the meeting concluded, First Admiral Velix, now Supreme Commander of the United Defense Force, approached Reyes privately. There are rumors, she said quietly, that Earth possesses technology far beyond what was used against the Craxus fleet. Technology that makes the Nexus system seem primitive by comparison. Ambassador Reyes smiled slightly. There are always rumors, Commander. Is it true? Velix pressed. The dimensional manipulation capabilities, the consciousness transfer systems, the ability to harness stellar energy directly? What matters, Reyes replied carefully, is that humanity has chosen partnership over domination. We could have conquered. Instead, we chose to cooperate. She gazed out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. 8 years was not just about judging your worthiness, Commander. It was about judging our own, determining whether we could trust ourselves with the power we've developed. And your verdict? Asked Velix. Still pending, said Reyes with a small smile. But the early results are promising. As they stood together looking out at the vast galaxy, now entering a new era of peace, the message was unspoken, but clear. Humanity had entered the galactic stage late, not out of hesitation or fear, but out of wisdom and restraint, and the 3 hours that changed everything were just the beginning.